I was already planning to cover this topic in an episode before this happened, but actually, right now, my Atlas Arcade is broken. For the past couple days, I have not been able to participate in the Atlas Arcade or the arcade challenges. And I'm still waiting for support to get back to me after I've tried all the common standard troubleshooting steps. But honestly, that almost fits in perfectly with what we're going to talk about in this episode, because over the last 2 years, I've watched what the Atlas Arcade has paid me in Atlas Bucks dwindle. When I first started using the Atlas Arcade, some games paid hundreds, sometimes over 1,000 Atlas Bucks. Now, many of the entry-level rewards are tiny, and the higher payouts often require such extreme grinding that it feels closer to a full-time job than casual gaming. Today we're digging into why this might be happening and how the entire rewarded mobile gaming economy may be evolving behind the scenes. But before we get started, if you are getting value out of this content, you like this kind of content, please like and subscribe and let me know in the comments, are you earning fewer Atlas bucks off the Atlas Arcade than when you first started in the game? For newer players, Atlas Arcade is basically a reward gateway inside Atlas Earth, and it's run by a third party. You download sponsored mobile games through the arcade, complete objectives, and then earn Atlas bucks. Behind the scenes, this appears to operate through a marketing partner named Playtime, which runs similar reward systems across multiple other platforms. This is part of a much larger industry called rewarded user acquisition. Game companies pay advertising networks to acquire players. The reward currency, in this case Atlas bucks, is the incentive. Here's where things get interesting. Advertisers are not paying for installs out of generosity. They're paying because they believe a certain percentage of players will eventually spend real money in the games, and they hope a lot of money. And this leads directly to my hypothesis. And again, this is just speculation on my part. This is based upon what I've observed and what people have reported to me here on the channel, as well as intertwining a little basic marketing knowledge. I believe newer players may receive more aggressive reward offers because the advertising system has less historical data on them. From a marketing perspective, a new player represents unknown potential. But after years of downloading games, completing offers, and potentially never spending any money inside those games, the system is going to classify you very differently. If advertising systems learn that a particular set of users download games and very rarely spend any actual money in those games, well, the advertiser may lower the acquisition value attached to those users. And there are probably many other variables affecting rewards. Android versus iPhone, country and regional ad markets, age demographics, ad tracking permissions, prior install history, spending behavior, device history, time limits on campaigns, and so on and so on and so on. Atlas Earth itself even states that rewards can vary between players. And to be real, that lines up with how modern advertising platforms work. One huge change I've personally noticed is the increase in time-limited progression systems. Instead of simply installing and playing to milestones until you're done with the game, all games now require completion in 30, 60, or 90 days. At the high end, most of these games now are almost impossible to complete without treating them like a second job. And let's be real here, they know what they're doing when they set these limitations. They know that they probably won't have to pay out those high levels of Atlas bucks at the top end for the majority of players. And this is not just happening in Atlas Earth. We're seeing similar trends, and even worse, across the entire rewarded gaming ecosystem. Misplay, free cash, swag bucks, cash giraffe, even Scrambly that I'm playing. As user acquisition gets more expensive, advertisers are demanding higher quality users. Not just people installing the game, but spenders. Not just casual players, but retained players. This means rewarded systems may be becoming more selective and more data-driven over time. And then there's the tracking problem. One of the biggest frustrations in these systems is the inconsistent tracking. Rewards delayed, objectives skipped, device tracking problems, games failing to register. We've all had this happen to us. Frankly, it's one of the most commonly discussed points in this game. Users have to contact support because milestones don't trigger correctly, and because the systems rely heavily on ad tracking permissions and attribution data. There are a lot of technical points where the whole system can break down. Okay, so where does that leave us? First of all, I don't think the Atlas Arcade is dying, but it's definitely changing. I think the economics behind rewarded mobile gaming are becoming more optimized, more data-driven, and probably more aggressive about profitability. New users may still see large payouts to try and acquire them, get them into the game, and start spending. Veteran users, on the other hand, may still just see diminishing returns. And advertisers are likely refining who they think is worth actually spending their advertising dollar on. But this is just my analysis after having used the system for 2 years now. And this is the reason why I've been shifting my play away from the Atlas Arcade during the second half of the month. During the first half of the month, I complete my arcade challenges to work my way through the challenge ladder. Once that's completed, then I use time on the Scrambly arcade to make a little bit more off of that. But I want to hear from you. Are your payouts lower now than when you first started playing the game? Or what have you noticed changed over the years? Have you noticed difference between Android and iPhone or other differences, Do you think that spending money actually affects the future payouts within those games? Please like, subscribe, and if you'd like to support the channel, please think about becoming a member. And if the Atlas Arcade actually starts working again for me, I'll definitely do a follow-up on this. With that said, this has been Bronze Dragon. I hope everyone on your side is happy and healthy. And as always, I'll see you in Atlas Earth.